Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your submitted sources and really get to the heart of the matter, extracting the key knowledge and insights.
hmm
This time, the learner, we're diving deep into a fascinating YouTube transcript.
Yep.
It's from the channel Ewelina Jackowska Hypnosis Team Grifasi,
Okay.
and it details a regression hypnosis session with a woman named Maria.
Right, Maria.
So our mission, basically, is to understand the core issues impacting Maria as they, unfolded under hypnosis,
Yeah.
and to see what surprising, insightful stuff we can glean that might resonate with your interest in, well, understanding these complex situations.
Absolutely. There's a lot here.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we start?
Well, right from the beginning, something pretty unusual stood out, actually.
Oh, yeah.
The hypnotherapist, they actually had difficulty even establishing a connection with what's called Maria's subtle body in the transcript.
Her subtle body, okay.
Yeah, that non-physical part, maybe emotions, memories, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. So connection was tough.
It was. And when contact was finally made, the image was, well, it was really quite vivid. Maria appeared as a teenager.
A teenager, yeah.
And she wasn't alone. There was this being with her, someone she saw as a father figure.
A father figure. Protective.
Very protective, yeah. Holding her arm. You get this immediate sense of, vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. Guarded, maybe.
Guarded, or maybe even stuck,
Yeah.
Stuck as that younger self.
Right. And there were these other layers too, right? Discomfort.
Oh, definitely. She felt intensely afraid, almost frozen.
Frozen, yeah.
And cold. There was this distinct feeling of coldness.
Okay. Cold, afraid, frozen. Then there's this ice skating detail in Russia.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
scene, on the surface, it sounds almost peaceful, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
But then you get these unsettling bits. Her hands were behind her back.
Behind her back, like bound.
Possibly bound, yeah. The
Yeah.
transcript suggests that. And then these sounds of children in the background.
Okay, that sounds
Yeah.
odd in this context.
It does, and they become really significant later on. It definitely creates this sense of unease right away.
Yeah, you can feel it. And what about her state? Lethargic.
Very lethargic. The transcript mentions she seemed almost drugged,
Wow.
overwhelmed by these huge emotions, fear, panic, shame,
Shame, okay.
and all while being controlled by this fatherly figure.
The one holding her arm.
Exactly. The hypnotherapist even described her essence, her core self, as being frozen.
Just completely stuck.
Completely. And what's really striking is, even with time sort of stopped for everything else in that state,
Yeah.
Maria's subtle body actually showed more shame surfacing, and this really disturbing scene of exploitation came up.
Exploitation. So it wasn't just about that moment.
No, it suggests something much deeper, a trauma running underneath it all.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, right? This fatherly being.
Yeah, the one holding her arm so protectively.
It's identified as a dragon. A smoke.
Exactly, the Polish word smoke, but appearing as a handsome man with a tail.
Whoa. Okay, not exactly the comforting dad figure then.
Not quite, no. Definitely not.
And the ice skating. That wasn't just like a random detail.
No, apparently it was anything but innocent. That movement on the ice rink, it was a deliberate tactic.
A tactic by the dragon.
By the dragon, yeah. To keep Maria locked in that single moment.
Stop time for her.
Essentially, yeah. To prevent her from experiencing the natural flow of time, keep her stuck right there.
Wow. That's manipulative.
Extremely. The goal seems to have been anchoring her to that specific point in her past.
And the lethargy. The confusion.
That widespread lethargy and confusion in her subtle body, also attributed to this entity.
So it's all part of the control.
It really paints a picture of someone whose whole sense of reality is being messed with, held captive.
Okay, so what happens when they start to, deal with the lethargy?
Well, when that was neutralized, it was like a little crack appeared.
Okay.
Maria started looking around. Her eyes began to move.
Yeah.
Progress, right?
Yeah, sounds like it.
But even when she was told that her physical body, her current self in 2025 had requested this session.
Yeah. Did she react?
Nothing. Absolutely no reaction. Still completely stuck in the past.
And how far back are we talking?
The transcript says the event trapping her happened 100 years prior.
100 years. Wow. That's a long time for a subtle body to be held like that.
It really underscores how severe this trauma must have been, profoundly deep.
And there was an audience. Guards and volt traps. What are those?
Yeah, an audience. Guards and these volt traps, it suggests some kind of public spectacle, which would just amplify the shame, right?
Definitely. Public humiliation.
As for volt traps, we could maybe think of them metaphorically, like energetic barriers or triggers.
Okay, designed to keep her trapped. Reinforce the bad feelings.
Exactly. keep her confined, reinforce negativity, and her response, her coping mechanism,
She shut down.
learned to just shut down her mind. This speaks volumes, doesn't it, about the pain?
It had to be unbearable. A survival mechanism.
Totally. The only way to cope with something so overwhelming.
And we learned that earlier. She did try to resist.
She did, yeah. When she fought back initially, the consequence was horrific.
What happened?
A burning sensation spread through her whole body like being hit by lightning.
Oh my God. That's awful.
Experiencing that repeatedly, yeah, it would lead anyone to just stop feeling, to protect themselves.
Of course. It just highlights the power imbalance, the cruelty of it all.
Absolutely. The brutality of the confinement.
Okay, let's circle back to those background sounds. The children laughing and cheering.
Right. Those sounds, what might seem innocent,
Yeah.
was experienced by Maria like being cut by knives.
Cut by knives. That's intense. Such
Yeah.
a visceral reaction.
It points to a really deep negative association. And then the revelation.
They weren't real children.
Not children at all. They were identified as transmitters.
Transmitters. Broadcasting what?
Subliminal messages. Specifically, you won't escape, you won't escape, over and over.
Oh, that's insidious.
Yeah.
Twisting something innocent like children's laughter into torment.
Exactly. Tools of psychological manipulation, constantly reinforcing that she's trapped.
So, if you put it all together, the frozen state, the dragon control, the time thing, the pain, these sounds,
Yeah.
it points to this prolonged, intense manipulation, right? Psychological, energetic, designed to just break her spirit.
Completely. It's a devastating picture.
So where did this all stem from? The root cause?
Well, following that intense shame and the exploitation scene that surfaced,
Yeah.
the regression took her deeper to a specific past life memory.
Okay, past life. What does she see?
She saw herself as a young woman in Russia, delicate and seemingly of high status. There's mention of a beautiful dress.
Russia again.
And she was being brutally exploited by a powerful figure. Someone like a czar or a king, the transcript suggests.
Exploited how?
The details are pretty graphic, being dragged, her fingernails tearing as she tried to resist.
Oh, that's horrible.
It paints a very vivid picture of the violence, her desperation.
Chilling. Really underscores the violation. And the dress being torn.
Yeah, emphasizes the personal violation, the public humiliation likely involved.
And in fact, it's Russia again. That feels really significant, doesn't it?
It strongly suggests this specific past life trauma is a core piece of her current issues.
So how did the dragon, how did that entity get involved?
I was fascinated. After that horrific event, Maria's in her room by a fire, maybe seeking comfort.
Yeah.
And a handsome young man appears right there in the flames.
The flames.
And he promises to care for her, to look after her.
The rescuer.
Exactly. But here's the key part. This being had the exact same form as the dragon holding her on the ice rink now.
The same one. Handsome man, tail, the whole thing.
The very same. So that moment, by the fire, that's the beginning. That's when the dragon's influence starts.
Wow. Such a classic manipulation, isn't it? Appearing as a savior in a moment of total vulnerability.
It really is. Offering comfort, safety. But it's a deception.
And connecting that savior to the current oppressor. That's powerful. Shows the pattern.
Precisely. And then strange dreams started.
Dreams. Good ones.
At first, yeah, pleasant. But gradually, they became more controlling. The embrace in the dreams got tighter, more restrictive.
Taking over her subconscious, too.
And that ice rink scene, that originated in one of those dreams.
Really? So it wasn't even a real memory.
It might have drawn on a desire or a memory she had of skating, but the dragon quickly took control within the dream.
And if she resisted in the dream?
Same thing. That burning sensation, like lightning, the same punishment.
So even in her dreams, there was no escape. Pain was used to keep her compliant. Pervasive control.
Absolutely. It's incredibly insidious.
What else do we learn about that past life? After the assault?
Well, the transcript suggests she might have been engaged, possibly to a wealthy, powerful man.
But after what happened?
Understandably, she was repulsed by him. She withdrew completely. Ate very little, stopped speaking, neglected her appearance. Clearly signs of deep trauma, wanting to avoid any more unwanted attention.
Makes sense. Did the marriage happen?
No, it didn't. She was eventually sent back home.
And then?
She just remained isolated, fixated on the fire, apparently, completely withdrawn from life.
How tragic.
It is. She died young, essentially having starved herself. A heartbreaking end to that life.
And her subtle body, her essence.
Remained trapped, stuck in that ice rink scene we saw at the beginning. The energetic impact just lingered.
Lingered for a century.
Ah.
Wow. Okay, so you mentioned dragons, plural.
Ah, yes. This adds another layer. We find out there isn't just one, but actually two dragons.
Two. Doing what?
They periodically switch places, every few years it seems.
Why? What's their purpose?
Purely parasitic, to feed on Maria's energy.
Just draining her.
Exactly. The one currently present drains her continuously, but gradually. The other one waits outside, ready to swap.
Like a tag team of energetic theft.
Pretty much ensures a constant drain on her.
That explains so much about potential fatigue or feeling drained in her current life, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not just old trauma. It's an active, ongoing, energetic leaching.
And the switching suggests it's like a coordinated long-term thing.
Seems like a deliberate strategy, yeah, to maintain their supply.
So as Maria is observing all this during the session, does she start to change?
Yes, a significant shift begins as she watches these revelations. Tears start.
Okay. Emotions coming up.
Big time. Shame, sadness, regret, self-disgust, all surfacing.
That pervasive shame you mentioned earlier.
It seemed to be throughout her entire body, a key indicator of how deeply she'd internalized the trauma.
And did any specific beliefs come up?
Yeah, the belief that she didn't deserve help surfaced.
Oh, that's common with trauma, isn't it? Internalizing the blame.
Very common. Isolates the victim further. Thankfully, that belief was identified and neutralized during the session.
Good. What about physical things? Anything show up?
Interestingly, yes, swelling appeared on her lips.
Swelling. Why?
It was interpreted as a defense mechanism in her subtle body to stop her from speaking out.
Wow. And it was linked to smoking.
Yeah, linked to difficulties quitting smoking. Shows that connection between physical symptoms and these energetic blocks.
That's fascinating. Where did the swelling energy come from?
It felt like a scorpion sting, apparently, implanted while she was on the ice rink.
Just another layer of intentional interference.
Seems so. And her fear, that was also described as just widespread, all through her being.
Constant state of anxiety, then, in that past life and maybe carrying over.
Very likely. Reinforces that hyper-alert state.
Did she try to heal herself during this session? Like, open a portal?
She did try to open a healing portal, but it was blocked.
Blocked by what?
By a mirror. And this mirror reflected her emotions, but doubled.
Doubled. So it amplified her own pain against her.
Exactly. Trapping her within her own feelings. Very pertinent metaphor.
And this mirror was part of the setup, the trap.
Identified as part of the defense mechanisms of that trap space, yeah. Emphasizing how artificial and controlled it all was.
Were there other defenses?
Mm-hmm. Trees, apparently to hide her. Birds, watching her, creating uncertainty. And rats, to scare her from the edge of the ice.
Wow. A whole landscape designed to keep her afraid and stuck.
Fear, uncertainty, guilt, self-hatred, disappointment.
Yeah.
All constantly triggered by these elements.
Like a prison built just for her,
Yeah.
emotionally, energetically.
Precisely. And she had this conviction felt in her throat that she just wouldn't be able to escape.
That deep sense of powerlessness.
Exactly. And then there's the mirror again.
Yeah.
The revelation that she saw herself as a monster in the mirror.
As a monster, why?
It wasn't her own view. It was due to a program placed in her eyes, making her see herself as a dragon.
The dragon made her think she was the dragon.
Seems like it. A crucial insight, right? Explains the self-loathing, the distorted self-image.
That's incredibly twisted. Another way to erode her self-worth and keep control.
Totally. A really nasty tactic.
What about core beliefs? Did anything else surface?
Yes, a really heartbreaking one. I deserved this.
Oh no. Where did that come from?
The transcript suggests it stemmed from that feeling of falling from grace after the assault, shattering her idealized view of life.
That internalization of blame again, so common, so devastating.
It really is. But identifying shame as the key link, the thing that needed breaking for her to get free, that was significant.
So neutralizing the shame was the turning point.
It was the catalyst, yeah. It allowed Maria to start moving, literally in the hypnotic state and symbolically towards healing.
And then other emotions came up.
Anger.
Anger, yes, and even vengefulness, which interestingly originated in her reproductive organs.
Linked to the sexual exploitation.
Directly linked, yes. A very natural response, but it was noted it was temporarily blocked in the session.
Okay. Was she given a choice, revenge versus healing?
She was presented with the potential outcomes, yeah.
Yeah.
And her initial feeling, understandably, leaned towards revenge.
Given the violation, yeah. Absolutely. But ultimately, the session's focus shifted towards release and healing as the more constructive path forward.
Right. The more empowering path.
Definitely.
But even with these emotions coming up, her essence was still frozen.
Still described as frozen, yeah. It wasn't until her essence itself, her core, expressed a clear desire to heal.
That's when things really shifted.
That's when the real lasting progress started. Releasing that lethargy, the dragon's influence directly from her essence, was key.
Liberating her core self.
Exactly. And after that, it was like a cascade.
Of releasing negative energy.
So much. The vengefulness, the anger, that foreign energy from the exploitation.
What else?
Feeling used, guilt, fear of it happening again, disgust, self-blame, self-hatred, that deep resignation, layer after layer being peeled away.
Allowing her true self to finally start emerging.
But then something else came up, which was quite striking.
What was that?
Feelings of despair, suicidal thoughts even, as her essence cleared.
Oh, wow. But were they hers?
That's the crucial point. They were identified as not being her own original feelings.
Not hers. Whose then? The dragons.
Possibly originating from the dragons, yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, they were actively working to keep her hopeless, keep her from fighting back.
So those feelings were part of the manipulation too.
It seems so. Those initial suicidal thoughts and despair, likely amplified by the dragons over time, were seen as the root of the problem.
So releasing those was fundamental.
Absolutely. Releasing them and replacing them with self-belief, self-confidence, a massive energetic shift.
What other beliefs needed clearing?
That belief in her throat, I can't do it, that had to go.
Okay.
Beliefs of depending on the dragon, needing him, and that program making her see herself as the dragon.
Right, releasing the distorted self-image.
Exactly. Any residual images of herself as a monster and the negative feelings tied to them were cleared too.
What about the starvation trauma from the past life? Was that strong?
Interestingly, no. It didn't seem as present as these deeper emotional and energetic wounds.
And the dragon's voice.
Yeah.
The false comfort.
Gone. Which really signifies breaking that controlling bond.
And she laughed at one point.
Yeah, the transcript mentions laughter, seemed to indicate this newfound independence, rejecting that old need for a caretaker.
That's a great sign.
It really is. Then releasing memories of being held captive, the unpleasant dreams.
Even physical stuff like her fingernails.
Her fingernails appeared normal again, releasing the physical manifestation of that past trauma. Really deep clearing.
So regret, the lip-swelling energy, the belief that inaction meant survival.
All released, freeing her from those old constraints.
Even the burning pain and the children's taunting sounds.
Residual pain from being burned, the negative impact of the sounds all released, unwinding those past torments completely.
And her hands weren't bound anymore.
No longer held back, such a powerful symbol of her freedom, her agency regained.
So clearly the last bits of lethargy, confusion, all the negative dragon energy.
It culminates in Maria being perceived as much brighter, stronger, more confident, smiling even.
What a transformation, just
Yeah.
hearing it described.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
So with this new empowerment, what did she do?
She started actively asserting control over her inner space. First, those children.
The transmitters.
She recognized they were fake, just illusions, and she destroyed them.
Took her power back. Good for her.
Then she went after the other defenses, the trees, the birds, the rats, dismantled them systematically.
Clearing out the whole prison.
Exactly. Though, interestingly, she left the ice rink scene itself intact, at least initially.
Why?
Maybe to process her new power within that very space where she'd been captive, to integrate it there.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, the transcript links a lot of her physical issues to this stuff, right?
It does, yeah. Offers a really fascinating, energetic perspective on mind-body connection.
Like what specifically?
Well, uterus and ovary issues were linked to the past sexual violation.
Okay, that connects.
Hand and leg problems tied to being frozen and held. Spinal issues from the overall stress of it all. Headaches from the energetic interference.
Wow. What else?
Lung and bronchial issues, possibly related to chest blockages. Digestive problems from the trauma and refusing to eat back then. Liver issues from surrounding negative energy.
It covers a lot. Heart problems, too.
Heart problems, low blood pressure, erratic pulse seen as results of prolonged stress, fatigue, weakness from that constant energy drain by the dragons,
Right.
even depression, panic attacks seen as consequences, allergies, skin problems, possibly linked to foreign energies in her system.
And they release specific energies from body parts.
Yeah, residual energies from her chest, arms, elbows, knees. supporting that energetic view of physical stuff.
Okay, then the other dragon showed up.
Right. The second dragon appeared, and then a third one, smaller,
A third. Who was that?
described as the child of the other two.
A child dragon. Oh, wow. Was it also feeding on her?
Indirectly, yeah. Mostly on her fear, using it for sustenance, hiding, camouflage, a whole parasitic family dynamic.
Unbelievable. What did Maria do?
Her choice was powerful. She froze all three of them in time.
Froze them. Nice.
What?
Taking control.
A very firm boundary setting, reclaiming her power.
So looking at her current life issues through this lens, smoking.
Yeah, the addiction and withdrawal were seen as partly psychological, but maybe also subtle body sabotage. Energetic attachments to smoking were released.
Okay, what about finances? Career?
Lack of stability and success there was linked to her feeling trapped. That lack of self-belief reinforced by the entities.
Makes sense. And lack of joy, feeling unlovable.
Attributed to the whole traumatic experience and its lingering energetic effects.
Even her early childhood, feeling unwanted by her mother.
Potentially influenced by the dragons trying to isolate her. Energetic imprints of rejection were cleared.
Wow. And strange things at home, needing to shower, seeing insects.
Connected to the dragons shifting their energetic impact. Even a black tunnel and well under the house affecting her husband, that was addressed and removed from her reality in the session.
Okay, removing those disturbances. What about feeling stuck in difficult situations?
Explained by her overall state of being trapped by these influences.
But memory issues, learning English difficulties.
Interestingly, those were attributed more to physical or neurological factors, not the energetic situation. A balanced view there.
Right. Feeling unseen, negatively perceived.
Linked back to her own negative self-perception, which had been imposed on her.
And bad outcomes when she sought help before.
Attributed to her lack of agency, being in that frozen state. And we already talked about the suicidal ideation earlier, where that came from.
Right. Not originally hers.
Yeah.
So the final release, how did that happen?
Crucially, Maria consciously acknowledged her own role on some level in allowing these interferences.
Taking responsibility in a way.
Yeah, and then making a firm decision to permanently release the entities. A powerful act of reclaiming her sovereignty.
Did she get rid of the ice rink?
Yes. She destroyed the ice rink scene completely, symbolically breaking free from that prison.
And the dragons.
She drained them of her energy, erased their memory of her, nullified all agreements, and banished them from her space. Complete eviction.
Wow. Comprehensive.
Very. She then reviewed other past lives, released any remaining baggage there too. Cleansed her whole energetic field.
Recalling her own information, canceling agreements.
Completing the process of reclaiming herself, her essence then expanded, filling her subtle body, her energy field, a return to wholeness.
And bringing her different energies into harmony, emotional, mental.
Emotional, mental, sexual energies all brought into harmony. Crucial for balanced well-being moving forward.
And cultivating positive feelings.
Self-love, joy, pride, self-belief, self-acceptance, cultivating those deep down at a cellular level, setting a resilient foundation.
And finally, returning to her physical body.
Integrating all the new energy, the healing, the final step in this incredible transformation.
With encouragement to tackle the smoking habit now.
Yeah, with her newfound clarity and strength. A practical application of all the deep inner work.
Did they get a glimpse of her future?
Yes, a positive glimpse. Showed her happy, engaged in positive things, unaffected by the past issues. Hopeful.
That's wonderful. And her message to herself?
Basically, focus on herself as number one, assert her boundaries confidently, and trust her new strength. A powerful affirmation of her journey.
What a journey it was.
So, the learner, as we've walked through Maria's regression, it's a huge transformation, isn't it?
Absolutely, from that deep fear and control.
To real empowerment and self-love. Her journey really shows how interconnected everything is: past lives, energetic influences, present-day stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't just digging up a past event. It was about the energetic imprint that shaped your current reality.
Exactly, understanding that lingering effect.
And that leaves us with a final thought, maybe, for you, the learner, to consider. What subtle influences might be playing out in your own life, shaping your perceptions, your experiences?
Yeah, like what unseen forces, maybe old beliefs, echoes from your own past, might be subtly impacting your present.
It's just a reminder, isn't it, that there's often more going on beneath the surface than we realize.
And exploring those deeper layers can be incredibly insightful.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.